Okay, we are holding our second Zoom session for 120, Anatomy, Physiology of the Ear. We are having this particular Zoom session at a particularly later time than usual. It's 1 p.m. by me, and it's 3 p.m. Central Time. So a bit of a different schedule because I had a scheduling conflict today. Normally, the Zooms will be at the regular time of, let's see, 1:30 p.m. Central Time, 11:30 my time for anatomy. Anyway, today we're looking at covering the outer ear, the anatomy and physiology of the outer ear. And I think we can probably get that all done in one zippity zoom zam zoom session. So share screen and share screen, and let's look at our notes. And here's what we've got: outer ear anatomy, physiology, the auricle or pinna. Here's your readings regarding the outer ear. The page numbers in Martin might be a little bit different because Martin seems to have a new textbook coming out just about every year. So you may find it in different places there, maybe not exactly in chapter 9, but do look in the index, or I should say the table of contents at the front of the book, and you'll find out where it covers the outer ear anatomy. So again, I say that because Martin changes the book almost every year. There's a new edition. So anyway, the outer ear, showing the PowerPoint slide as well. Okay, let's look at this guy right here and blow it up to make it big. And there you have it. Okay, the outer ear, the ear canal. This is called sometimes the pinna, P-I-N-N-A, pinna. Sometimes it's called the auricle, A-U-R-I-C-L-E, auricle or pinna. It's got several different parts. This would be the helix. This would be the antihelix. This would be the concha bowl. Here's the ear canal. And notice in this picture too, you have a bony portion and a cartilaginous portion. See how the skin of the outer ear canal, if you follow my cursor, sometimes the skin is covering bone, but then in the outer half of the ear canal, it's covering cartilage. Now, if I stop sharing, I can make an analogy, just like your nose. It always knows. Feel the top of your nose, the skin covers bone. The bottom of the nose, skin covers cartilage. You can wiggle the bottom of the nose, you can't wiggle the top. Okay? And that's the same thing with the ear. You can wiggle the ear, and that's the cartilaginous portion of your outer ear canal. So let's look at what our notes say about that. Let's see if I can get to our notes. Here we go. Auricle or pinna, the largest part of the ear, very individual. And look at the parts: the helix, the antihelix, and the tragus, antitragus, Greek for goat's beard, tragus, and the concha bowl. Now, let's see if we can show those pieces in a PowerPoint slide. Here you go. The helix is that outer rim of the ear. Don't worry about all these words. There's way too many words. The antihelix is this next ridge. The concha bowl and the tragus is that little bump at the front of your ear. Now it's behind the tragus where my cursor is moving. That's where hair tends to grow in men's ears. Okay? I'm back to this slide here, showing you the cartilaginous portion of the canal and the bony portion of the outer ear canal. Always remember that. The outer half, the skin covers cartilage. The inner half, the skin covers bone. You can wiggle this whole cartilaginous portion, no problemo. The cartilaginous portion is also where earwax grows. It's where the hair grows in an ear canal, and it's where earwax grows. Now, earwax does not originate in the bony portion of the canal. The skin here is as smooth as a baby's behind, okay? When you use Q-tips, you end up pushing the wax further in to the bony portion of the ear canal where it never formed in the first place. Again, a close-up of the ear. The 4 parts you need to know: helix, antihelix, concha bowl, tragus. You all know what an earlobe is. All right. In the auditory canal, that's sometimes called the external auditory canal, or sometimes external auditory meatus, M-E-A-T-U-S. Meatus is just Latin for tunnel. So we'll look at what are we doing here? I'll show you. Go up to here. You're looking at the skin and the stuff, the cartilage under here. So right where I'm circling, or you're looking here at the top, right where I'm circling. Okay, go there. Okay? Here's the skin of the outer ear canal. These are glands underneath the skin. These form cerumen. Cerumen is earwax. C-E-R-U-M-E-N. Ceruminous glands are modified sweat glands. Wax formation in the ear occurs due to excessive activity of these glands. Cerumen waterproofs the skin and protects the ear canal, external acoustic meatus, from exogenous agents such as insects. Bugs don't like cerumen. Weird, huh? When you're looking into an ear canal, you're looking into an ear canal with an otoscope. And an oto, ear, scope, looking in. And see this black thing here? So a light, this is the batteries, and they power the light. And then you're looking through this black thing. Now the black thing is shining light into the ear canal. This black thing is called a speculum. S-P-E-C-U-L-U-M, speculum. And you're looking into the ear with a speculum. You have to be very, see how it gets wider? You have to be very careful when looking in someone's ears that you don't pinch the skin right here, that you don't pinch this junction and pinch that junction, or you'll get a whopping blood blister. Not nice. So let's read in our notes what we've covered so far. Auricle or pinna. I'll scroll down. The parts of the ear to know: helix, antihelix, tragus. Don't worry about antitragus. Concha. External auditory canal or meatus, EAM. Meatus, Latin for opening or channel. In adults, it's about 1 inch long. And what did we say in acoustics this morning? About 2.5 centimeters long. A centimeter is about the width of your fingernail. So it's about 2.5 centimeters long, or about 1 inch. Don't worry about the height and the wide, I don't care. It has 2 bends. An ear canal is not completely straight. It's got like a dog leg in it. And that's why when you're looking into an ear, you often have to pull it up and back in order to straighten out the ear canal so you can see into the eardrum. Because if you don't, you're going to be just looking at a wall. The ear canal kind of has a bend in it, and I'll draw it. It kind of looks like this, if I haven't shown you before. Kind of looks like it's a dog leg. It's got 2 bends in it. Okay, so this might be where the eardrum is, and this is the opening where you're looking in. It's got 2 bends in it. That's what I mean by it. All right, share screen. Look at our notes. It's about 98.6 degrees inside an ear canal. Bugs just love it. Outer ear canal is surrounded by the mastoid portion of the temporal bone. Mastoid portion of the temporal bone. This is part of the temporal bone. And we will learn later the temporal bone has 2 parts, the petrous portion and the mastoid portion. The mastoid portion is the outer portion of the temporal bone. The petrous portion is the inner portion of the temporal bone. It surrounds the cochlea, or inner ear. The mastoid portion surrounds the ear canal, or part of the ear canal. And look at how holy it is. Full of holes. It's very holy. It's very worshipful. Okay? It's full of holes. They call that pneumatic, P-N-E-U-M-A-T-I-C, like pneumonia, okay? It means lots of holes in it. The mastoid portion is very porous. You can feel part of the mastoid bone. Put your finger behind your ear. When you put your finger on the bone behind your ear, that's part of the mastoid portion too. Okay, it's soft, porous bone surrounding the inner half of the ear canal, or internal auditory meatus. Keep reading in the notes. This part of the middle ear space and the cochlea are surrounded by the petrous portion of the temporal bone. And the petrous portion doesn't have holes in it. It's very, very hard and dense. The outer half of the ear canal, the skin covers cartilage. Hair in old man's ears, sebaceous glands create cerumen. Where does the hair grow in old man's ears? Outer half of the ear canal, especially behind the tragus. Glands in the cartilaginous portion of the ear canal create cerumen, earwax. Bugs don't like cerumen. Oh, by the way, the word sincere means without wax. In Roman times, if you were cheap and you gave someone a nice silver statue, just the outside of the statue was filled with silver. The inside was filled with wax to make it heavy. If you were really sincere, you gave the person a nice little statue and it was solid silver without wax. You meant it. Sincerely yours. Learn something new every day, huh? All right, back to sharing screen. Okay. The inner half of the canal, no glands or hair. Possible danger with the speculum when looking in. Skin covers mastoid portion of the temporal bone, which is soft and porous. Ear canal skin, very thin. Doesn't flake as is typical with skin. It moves slowly like a glacier on the tympanic membrane, then moves onto the bony portion of the ear canal. Takes several months to reach the border of the cartilaginous portion of the ear canal. Finally, the skin meets the hairs and cerumen, which stops its movement. It actually forms wrinkles, dried dead skin on the surface. Dried skin glacier seems to break and turn into flakes, mixes with wax, and this is what we see as cerumen. Well, let's pull up the slide where it says that. So why don't I? Let's go to here. And, I should pull up a overview of the ear. Maybe it's in this section here. I'm not sure. Just bear with me here. Or if it isn't there, let's go back to here once. Outer ear. And maybe I've got it in. Oh, yeah, sure. I got it here. Good. Okay. So here you go. Here you go. Got it. Beauty. There it is. So you're looking in at the eardrum, and skin tends to grow from the center of the eardrum, and it tends to grow like a spiral out. And finally, it meets the bony portion of the ear canal, as you can see. And finally, that skin migrates to the cartilaginous portion of the ear canal, where it tends to form wrinkles, gets a little bumpy, flakes of the skin come off and meet with the earwax. See that? Here's earwax. You're looking at the outer half of someone's ear canal. That's where hair and earwax begins to form. Okay, there's nothing wrong with earwax. Here's a good clump of earwax in someone's ear canal. Mixed with the hair, you can see that. As long as you can see behind, as long as you can see a crack, or as long as there's no real hearing loss caused by wax. Okay, but look at what a Q-tip will do. It's just going to push this further into the ear canal. So here's 3 types of earwax. Yellow, which is newer, and black, which is older, mixed with debris, dirt, skin, stuff like that, okay? And you can think of it a lot like mucus in the nose. Sounds gross, but you're going to be looking in people's ears. And in the nose, you have soft mucus and you have harder mucus. The harder mucus is old. Okay, there's nothing, it's just a fact of life. So, got to look at that. Let's go to our notes. Take a peek here. That's what this was about. Otoscopic examination of the external auditory meatus. There it says it. Pull ear up and back to straighten out canal. Children tend to have different ear canals a bit. It goes down instead of up. So during an otoscopic exam of a child, you'll pull the ear down and back, not up and back. But we're HISs, hearing instrument specialists. We work with adults. We don't mainly work with children much. So don't worry about that. Temporal mandibular joint syndrome. TMJ. Not sure if I've got the picture here, but maybe I do here. Yeah, let's look at this. Here's the overview of the ear. Okay, here's that temporal bone that we looked at last week. Temporal bone that we looked at last week, okay? And it has two parts, the mastoid portion, and then the inner half would be the petrous portion, the harder part. Here's the jawbone, the mandible. And here's your temporal mandibular joint. Okay, temporal bone, mandible, your jawbone, and look at how your jawbone has these two bumps on it. Now this joint right here sometimes gets arthritis. See how it's right in front of the ear canal? It's really close to the ear canal. Okay, this can get arthritis and can cause a lot of pain. You may be felt in the ear, and a person may be coming to see you about it when actually he or she should see a dentist. Okay, but just so you know, it's called TMJ, temporal mandibular joint syndrome. A protrusion of the mandible into the osseo-cartilaginous junction of canal. Osseo-bone, cartilaginous junction of the canal. So the mandible may actually be pushing a little bit into the guy's ear canal, right kind of behind here, and it really hurts. Okay, so just so you're aware of what that is, basically, TMJ, very, very painful. Causes otalgia, or ear pain. Oto, ear, algia, pain. The eardrum has 3 layers. It's called the tympanic membrane. 3 layers, an outer layer, a middle layer, and an inner layer. And look at where they come from. The 3 original layers of tissue in the embryo that is just forming in mother after conception. Ectoderm eventually turns into skin and nerves. Mesoderm eventually turns into muscles and bones. Endoderm eventually turns into anything that's slimy in your body. Your guts, the inside of your cheeks, the inside of your nose, the inside of your middle ear, anything that's mucosal and slimy, endoderm. So, and the eardrum is the one part of your body that retains all 3 of those original tissues. It has an outer layer, a middle layer, and an inner layer. The outer layer is from ectoderm, the middle layer is from mesoderm, the inner layer is from endoderm. Well, remember, ecto, exit, means outside, endo, in, okay, inside. Don't worry about memorizing this area of the tympanic membrane. I can say it very simply. The tympanic membrane is about the size of a dime. That's what it is. If you're looking at your finger straight out, it's about the size of the end of your finger when you're looking at your finger. Okay, that's how big the eardrum is. Just thought I'd tell you. Keep it simple. Don't need to make it complicated. The umbo. The umbo is the dead center of your eardrum. And your eardrum is actually kind of concave. Let's see if I have a picture of it here. We may, maybe not. Sort of, kind of. Let's see. I'm going all the way down to the bottom just to make sure. And I think, no, I'm glad I've got, what I'm doing is I'm pulling up last week's PowerPoint as well, because last week's PowerPoint, it'll show it better. So here we are. Let's go up here, and here we go. Look at how the eardrum is concave, like a speaker. See that? It's not like a flat wall. It goes in and then back out here. It's just like a speaker cone. And the dead center of the cone is called the umbel. Okay, so now let's get out of here, go to our notes. The dead center of the eardrum, and the manubrium of the malleus is bent back. What do we mean by that? The manubrium, here's the malleus bone, the first bone of your middle ear that we'll look at next week more, okay? This is the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup, the three littlest bones of the body. And this is, in technical language, the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. And we'll talk about these next week when we go into the middle ear, because this is the middle ear. But notice how the handle of this bone, they call this the manubrium of the malleus. Okay? So pretend this is a hammer. I'd be holding this and banging with that. Okay? So the handle of the malleus, look at how it runs from the top of the eardrum down to the umbel. See, the bone doesn't cover the bottom half of the eardrum. It just goes from the top half to the middle, the umbel. Okay, back to the notes. Manubrium of the malleus is embedded into the middle layer of tissue of the tympanic membrane. It's literally embedded in there. And the annulus is a ring of tissue that holds the tympanic membrane in place. So what would that be? Looking here, the annulus would be the ring of tissue. The ring of tissue holding the eardrum in place. Now, I don't want the overview. Let's go to the ear itself. So here you go. Here's a picture of eardrums. Okay? You're looking dead in now. You're straight in. So here's the umbel. Here's the manubrium of the malleus as seen straight out from the outside. You're looking into the ear. And look at the landmarks of an eardrum, the right and the left. Okay? The right tympanic membrane. Here you can see the manubrium of the malleus, the bone. It's almost like a, like a bathroom window that you can kind of see through it, sort of, kind of. It's translucent. It's not transparent. You can't see through it, everything, but you can see shadows, kind of. That's kind of what the eardrum is like, okay? So you can kind of see the manubrium, the handle of the malleus bone. Here's the umbel. And look at this big area of skin. That big area of skin is called the pars, P-A-R-S, tensa, T-E-N-S-A, pars tensa. And then you'll have this little area here, the pars flaccida, flaccid, not very stiff, F-L-A-C-C-I-D-A, flaccida. Now the pars flaccida is not very stiff, it's very wiggly, and it accommodates tiny changes in pressure as you would go up a flight of stairs in a house. Okay? If you're in a car and you're going up a mountain, then your ears are going to pop and you're going to have to blow really hard in order to equalize air pressure on both sides of the drum. What do I mean by that? Let's look here at this picture. The middle ear is a little room, okay? And it's filled with air. And the bones are sitting here, okay? Now the air pressure in your middle ear should be similar to the air pressure in your ear canal. If it isn't, you might have a vacuum here, or maybe excess air pressure here. So when you go up a mountain or you're going up in an airplane, you might have different air pressure on both sides of your eardrum. So you have to blow your nose or swallow or something to open up, look, follow my cursor, to open up the eustachian tube to let new air come in there, okay, to equalize the air pressure. Now the pars flaccida accommodates tiny little changes in air pressure because it's very flaccid. So it'll accommodate tiny changes in air pressure just by moving. But the pars tensa is the big part of your eardrum, and that won't. So if you go up a lot, like up a real high rise, the elevator's taking you up 100 floors or something, you're going to have to swallow or yawn or do something to equalize the air pressure. Okay? And look at this little notch here. That notch is called nodes, N-O-D-E-S, of Ranvier, R-A-N-V-I-E-R, the nodes of Ranvier. They separate the pars tensa from the pars flaccida. And look at this, you can even see a part of the incus, the next bone. You can even see that through the eardrum. Okay, and then this landmark here is called the cone of light. And that isn't really on your eardrum. That's just a reflection of the light shining off of your otoscope. And in the right ear, it's at 5 o'clock. In the left ear, it's at 7 o'clock. Okay, so consider that a very askable question on a quiz. Cone of light. You should see a nice cone of light on a healthy eardrum. And now let's look at some pictures of eardrums. Not there. Hairy old ear. There you go. Let's look at a picture of an eardrum. A nice, normal, healthy eardrum. Cone of light. Manubrium of the malleus. Umbo. And there's that long process of the incus. Okay. And this is the annulus, the ring of tissue that holds the eardrum in place. Another eardrum picture. Manubrium of the malleus, umbo, cone of light. It's at 5 o'clock, so you know it's the right ear. Here's a close-up. Okay? So you're looking at an eardrum. Kind of look at the blood vessels around it, too. This is just the walls of the bony portion of your ear canal. That's all that is. So back to your notes, let's see what we covered here. Annulus, the ring of tissue that holds the tympanic membrane in place. Well, to see that really nicely, flipping up here, oh, there we go. Annulus, the ring of tissue that holds the eardrum in place. Going to the notes. Manubrium of the malleus, the umbo. Nodes of Ranvier, the Y-shaped division at the top of the tympanic membrane, divides the pars tensa from the pars flaccida. Pars tensa, the bigger part of the eardrum, sometimes called Shrapnel's membrane. It's a large surface of the tympanic membrane. Okay, the large surface of tympanic membrane between the nodes of Ranvier above. Wow, that's not really true. Look at the picture here. The picture is, this is pars tensa. Okay, that's pars flaccida. Back to the notes. All right, covered the page 1. On to page 2. Here you go. Pars flaccida, cone of light. Orientation of right and left tympanic membrane. The cone of light will be at 5 o'clock in the right ear, at 7 o'clock in the left ear. And the orientation, the manubrium of the malleus, will be tilted one way and tilted the other way. So let's look at that. Just a picture. See that? As opposed to here. Okay, so just mainly think of the cone of light. That's really what's going to give away which ear you're looking in. Good. Some outer ear embryology. 3 original layers of tissue, as we covered before. The outer and inner ears originate from the same tissue because the inner ear has lots of nerve tissue in it, and the outer ear is skin. And what comes from ectoderm? Nerves and skin. The middle ear is from mesoderm because it contains 2 muscles, which we'll cover next week, and bones, little bones. And it's got mucosal lining. The slimy lining is from endoderm. The tympanic membrane is unique in that it contains all 3 layers of embryonic tissue, an outer layer, a middle layer, and an inner layer. So when you're looking at the outer ear, here, you're looking at the eardrum, right where I'm drawing here. The outer ear canal, there's the annulus of the eardrum, the umbo of the eardrum. You can see the outer layer, and then there's a tough, fibrous middle layer, and then this is just sort of like a schematic of the middle ear space. They don't have the bones drawn in there, but this red would be the inner layer of the eardrum. So the yellow, the black, and the red showing you the 3 layers of the eardrum. Now, let's go and take a peek at our notes again. Here we now get to the physiology of the outer ear. So you've looked at all the pieces and the parts. We've labeled the outer ear's anatomy as much as we need to know it. But you need to know the outer ear anatomy because that's the part that you and I see the most. And that's where hearing aids are fitting in. And that's where earwax grows. And that's where you are going to be looking with your otoscopes. At every client you see, before you do a hearing test, always look into the ear canal. So, and you will be provided with these otoscopes on your clinical practicums, and whenever you're doing this, every place has otoscopes that serves hearing aids. So let's look at how does the outer ear work? What does it do? Because that's what the word physiology means. What does it do? Okay, it's mainly a funnel to gather sound, and oh look, the resonance of the concha. The resonance of the concha. And you're going to see something here important for localizing high frequency sounds. Don't worry about that. Here. Now you haven't quite gotten to this part very much in acoustics yet. Okay, but we will in 110. And I want to talk about it right here. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. I'll just talk at you. And I think maybe what I'll do is I'll go to the kitchen quick here and I'll grab a cup. Hang on, I'll be right back. Okay. So, here's a cup. What do all cups have in common? They're like cylinders. Okay? And look, they're closed at one end, and they're open at the other end. So all such objects are called quarter wave resonators. And in English, this simply means that they will resonate like a wine glass at Christmas when you lick your finger and put it around the rim. Okay. Quarter wave resonators resonate with sound waves that are 4 times their length. And what else is a quarter wave resonator? Your ear canal, because it's closed at one end by an eardrum and open at the other end. So it too is a quarter wave resonator. So now let's share screen and look at the outer ear as a quarter wave resonator. So we'll go to our PowerPoint slide here and outer ear anatomy, and we'll look at the outer ear canal here. There it is. It's about 1 inch long, or it's about 2.5 centimeters long, your ear canal. See how it's just like a cup, a cylinder closed at one end. So it's going to vibrate or resonate with sound waves that are 4 inches long. Or it's going to resonate with sound waves that are 4 times 2.5 centimeters. And what's 4 times 2.5? 10. Okay, now when you looked at acoustics this morning, we covered frequency equals speed of sound over wavelength. And we also said wavelength equals speed of sound over frequency. Well, we know what the wavelength is that will resonate the ear canal. It's 4 inches long. Okay, so let's take a calculator here. Stop sharing. Here's a calculator. So let's figure out what frequency the ear canal is going to resonate with. What's the speed of sound that we covered in acoustics class this morning in 110? Frequency equals wavelength over speed of sound, or speed of sound over wavelength, I mean, and wavelength equals speed of sound over frequency. Well, we know what the wavelength is. It's 4 inches long. and we know the speed of sound, it's 1,130 feet per second. So what's 4 inches in terms of feet? Okay, in other words, 4 inches is a third of 12 feet, isn't it? Okay, because if you're doing feet per second, the top of the equation or the fraction has to be the same as the bottom. You can't be comparing apples and oranges. If you're talking feet, you have to talk in feet at the bottom too. So what's 4 inches? If the ear canal is one inch long, it's going to resonate with sound waves 4 inches long. Speed of sound is 1,130 feet per second. So 1,130 feet per second divided by 4 inches, can't do that. What's 4 inches? A third of a foot. Okay, 0.33. Let's do it. 0.33, because 33 times 3 is 99. So 0.33 is really close to a third. So let's do that. I'll hit the calculator here. Whoa, calculator, 1,130 feet per second divided by 0.33 is equal to, 3,424 hertz. 3,420. Let's call it 3420, 3420. Okay, now let's do it in metric. What did we say the speed of sound was in meters this morning in 110? We said it's 343 meters per second. Okay, ear canal is 2.5 centimeters long. It's going to resonate with sound waves 4 times 2.5 centimeters. 4 times 2.5 is 10. And what's 10 centimeters? Just like we couldn't divide feet by inches, we had to convert 4 inches into a third of a foot. We have to do the same thing with centimeters, because 340 meters per second divided by 10 centimeters, can't do that. Doesn't work. So you have to do 343 meters per second divided by, what's 10 centimeters? A tenth of a meter. And what's a tenth? 0.1. Okay, so 343, calculator again, 343 divided by 0.1 equals 3,430. Pretty darn close to the way that we have figured it the other way, right? So the ear canal is going to resonate, you'd think, with sound waves that are about 3,420 hertz. But a great big capital B-U-T, the ear canal ain't a glass. Okay? It's shaped like a glass, but it's made out of flesh and bone. Okay? So that resonance of 3,420 hertz is going to be spread out, is going to be fudged a bit. So now let's look at what that means. So let's share screen and look at the PowerPoint slide and go down, down, down. There you go. There's the outer ear canal resonance. Now, the resonance is shown. It's kind of starts around 1,500. It peaks around 2,700, and then it drops off past 4,000. So your ear canal, because it's flesh and bone, that resonance is spread a bit. And how much extra decibels does it give? It gives about 20 decibels of extra loudness. And to what frequencies? High-pitched frequencies. Right, remember we said in acoustics class, the sweet spot of our hearing is between 1 and 4,000 hertz? Well, part of that's due to this resonance. Okay? That's why, how come we hear 1 to 4,000 hertz more better than we hear the other frequencies? Because of this resonance. And why is that important? In speech, the letters S, F, CH, sh, k, p, t are all high-pitched. And those are softer. If you say the word Paul, the name Paul, all is the loud part, it's the p is soft. Church, what's the loud part? Ch, ch is soft. Speech, what's the loud part? E ch, is softer. So the outer ear has that resonance between 1 and 4,000 hertz to help us hear the all-important parts of speech, namely the consonants, because the consonants tell you what the word is. Hat, fat, bat, cat, sat, they all have a, but it's the consonants that tell you what the word was. And they are high frequency. And the outer ear helps us hear high frequency speech. So the outer ear is literally made for speech. The ear canal and the concha bowl too. The concha bowl, it resonates between 5 and 6,000 hertz. Okay, so it really helps to hear the high frequency sounds of speech as well. So you can see that the shape of your outer ear and the length of your ear canal are married to speech. And it's the outer ear canal resonance. That's the main physiology of the outer ear. Okay, it helps you hear the high frequency sounds of speech, and those are the letters S, F, T, CH, K, sh. Okay, all those high-pitched sounds. So there we have it. Okay, share screen. Go to our notes. Notes, if you please. There you go. The outer ear canal is a tube closed at one end. Resonates best when it's a quarter the length of a sound wave, or with sound wave 4 times its length. The ear canal is about 2.3, I just say 2.5. So it's going to resonate with sound waves that are about 9.2, I just say 10. Generally, it resonates between 1,500 and 4,000 because it's made of flesh and bone, so it gets spread out a bit. That's why I say the exact frequencies are fudged a bit. Basically, it gives a peak resonance of 2,700 hertz up to about 20 decibels, a gift. And the resonances of the concha bowl and the ear canal add up to the total ear canal outer ear resonance. What's the benefit here? It helps us hear the soft, high-frequency consonants of speech. This is why our outer ears have the weird shape and why the ear canal has its particular length. The ear is made for speech. If we didn't speak, we'd likely have differently shaped ears. Weird, huh? Okay. Told you we're not learning this stuff for nothing. All right. Now, okay, we're just about done here. The last section we need to cover is something called the occlusion effect. This is an outer ear phenomenon too. So I'll first demonstrate it and then we'll go back to our notes. Occlusion effect. What are you doing when you plug an ear and talk? You're going to hear your voice loudest in the ear that you plug. So watch. Plug an ear, and the best way to plug an ear is don't put your finger in your ear, okay? It's best to just take your whole finger and push it against the tragus. So push against the tragus and go ahead and talk. Ha, hoo. You'll hear yourself loudest in the ear that's plugged. That's called the occlusion effect. And think of what would happen with hearing aids that you stick in an ear. You're going to make the occlusion effect. The guy's going to complain that his voice is loud because you're plugging the ears. And go ahead and plug both ears. Plug them both and talk. You're going to hear your voice really loud. You're going to talk really softly because you hear yourself kind of loud. Hearing aids have holes in them. And the holes are called vents. And the vent is produced in the hearing aid, a hole cut into the hearing aid to stop the occlusion effect, to get rid of the occlusion effect. So now let's define and look carefully at the occlusion effect and look at its real definition, because the lay definition is my voice gets louder in the ear when it's plugged. Duh. Okay, that's the common person's definition, and we've covered that now. Now let's look at the professional definition as it would be broken down scientifically with your knowledge of acoustics and your knowledge of anatomy. So here we go. Share screen and look at your notes. The occlusion effect. Read with me. Your own voice sounds louder when your ear is plugged. And don't say middle ear plug. Let's get rid of that puppy. Get that out of there. Okay, when your outer ear is plugged. This is normal. Okay, if you don't have the occlusion effect, you have a plugged middle ear. You got something wrong with your middle ear. Okay, you've got an ear infection. Everybody should have an occlusion effect. Even if you have hearing loss, you should still have the occlusion effect. The only person who doesn't is someone who's got a middle ear infection or something wrong with his or her middle ear. Okay, enough. We'll get more on that as we go in the courses. But here you go. A tape-recorded voice. Have you ever listened to yourself on a recording? Does it sound like you? You're the only one that doesn't think so. Okay, everybody else thinks your voice sounds just like it does on the recording. You're the only one that doesn't like it. You know why? That's because you hear yourself by air and through the bone. You hear yourself by sound waves coming out of your mouth, going to your ears, but you also hear yourself because put your hand on your throat. When you put your hand on your throat, you can feel it vibrate when you talk. And that's sending sound waves through your skull up to your ears. So you are hearing yourself through air conduction and bone conduction at the same time. And when you do, you hear yourself more richly, more deeply, and louder. And when you're hearing yourself through sound waves only, through a recording, through someone who's done a recording of your voice, now you are hearing yourself as others hear you, because other people hear you only through air. You hear yourself through air and through bone. Okay, so now share screen, go back to these notes. The low frequencies of your voice, put a star by this, because there's 5 pieces in here. So put a 1 on top of low frequencies and add something here. Low frequency bone conducted sounds, BC, before Christ, British Columbia, low frequency bone conducted sounds, just jot that in there, resonate with the mass of your skull. Now here's something we'll be covering in acoustics class next week, and I'm mentioning it here in anatomy class. I'll stop sharing. Mass, heavy things resonate with low frequencies. Okay? If you're sitting in your living room and the neighbors upstairs are playing the stereo really loud, what comes through the ceiling? The bass, the beat, the drum beats, boom, boom, boom. It's because your ceiling has mass. And low frequencies resonate mass. Okay? Think of a train locomotive. You can't jiggle a locomotive. It doesn't want to be moved back and forth very much. You know, it's going to take 100 people to push it and then 100 people to pull it. Mass doesn't resonate with high frequencies. Mass resonates with lows, things that are big, things that are heavy. Okay? On the other hand, stiffness. Hold your finger really stiff. Or hold my hand really stiff. If I push down on it slowly and push up on it slowly, you can run into a lot of resistance. But if I grab it and go jiggle, jiggle, no problem. If you have something that's stiff, you can jiggle it easily. Easier than pushing it down slowly and pushing it up slowly. So stiffness resonates with the high frequencies. Well, back to our definition of the occlusion effect. Low frequency, bone conducted sounds through your throat, up through your skull, resonate the mass of your skull. That's number 3. This in turn resonates the cartilaginous portion of your ear canal. That's number 4. And number 5, Plugging your ear prevents that added resonance from escaping. Low-frequency bone-conducted sounds resonate the mass of your skull, which in turn vibrates the cartilaginous portion of your ear canal. Plugging your ear prevents that added resonance from escaping. The occlusion effect. Okay, we're just about all done our coverage of the outer ear. Occlusion effect. Okay, so that was listed here. And there's a tuning fork test called the Bing tuning fork test. I'll show it to you. And it demonstrates the occlusion. Here's what doctors do when they're checking to see if you've got a problem. Here's a tuning fork. If I vibrate it and put it on the mastoid bone, that hard bone behind my ear, ding the tuning fork, put it on my mastoid bone, I can hear by bone conduction. Plug the ear, it gets louder. Unplug the ear, it gets softer. Plug the ear, it gets louder. Unplug the ear, it gets softer. The occlusion effect. The Bing tuning fork test is a test of the occlusion effect. And if you don't get the occlusion effect, you have a problem with the middle ear. Because when you plugged up the ear and it prevents that sound from escaping, where is it going to go? Back into the ear. But if you've got a plugged ear, it can't go back. God knows where it goes, but it ain't going back into the ear because the ear is plugged. You got an ear infection. Okay? So the people who don't have the occlusion effect have a middle ear problem. And the middle ear, to highlight and share with you again, the middle ear is that lovely little room right here, the middle ear. If the middle ear is infected, okay, or the middle ear has a problem, then the occlusion effect will not occur. Again, the occlusion effect, low-frequency bone-conducted sounds resonate the mass of your skull, which in turn vibrates the cartilaginous portion. Plugging your ear prevents that from escaping, but if it prevents it from escaping, it's going to go back into the ear, but if you have a middle ear infection, it won't be able to. Okay, occlusion effect, shown by the Bing tuning fork test. Occlusion effect should be present in normal hearing people and with people who have inner ear pathology. We'll cover more of it. You'll run again with this. Everybody except people with middle ear pathology get the occlusion effect. Okay. Disorders of the outer ear. One's called stenosis. That's a partial closure of the external auditory meatus. Let's look at stenosis. That's not hard to do. Shoot, here's stenosis. There you go. I'll blow it up and make it bigger. There's stenosis, a partial blocking of the outer ear canal. Here's stenosis again. A kid put a bead in his ear, a partial closing of the outer ear canal. Here, a partial closing of the outer ear canal. Stenosis created by a bug. Here, stenosis, a partial blocking of the outer ear canal. Okay, we'll cover more disorders in a course that's called Hearing Disorders at OTC. And it's called HEAR 125. It's an 8-week summer course on disorders. So all of you who continue on in this course, we will be covering more disorders of the ear. But first of all, you got to know what's normal. And that's what the anatomy course is for. This is what's telling you what's normal, and we learn the disorders later on. Okay, fair enough. Look at our notes. Atresia. That's a total closing of the ear canal. A total closing, often found with something called Treacher-Collins syndrome. So let's look at atresia. There you go, atresia. Look at that. Guy's born without outer ears. Atresia. Okay, so this is found in a syndrome called Treacher-Collins syndrome. You'll learn more about that next year, okay, or in the disorders course. Atresia. All right, escape. Back to our notes. Osteoma, bony spur or a benign tumor of the outer ear canal. A benign tumor. Let's look at it here. There you go. Let's blow it up. Exotoses, often called swimmer's ear. Look what it says on the bottom. It's nature's own device to protect the ear canal and eardrum from cold water. Okay, these are just bony growths underneath. They're not cancerous. When you really get something here, an osteoma, oma always means a bit of a tumor. Exotoses are quite common, swimmer's ear. They can drill those out. Osteomas are rare benign tumors of the temporal bone, usually lying in the external ear canal. If they occur, they are more likely to warrant surgical removal as they more frequently compromise the ear canal. So this stenosis is almost turning into atresia. So they got to get that out. Okay? All right, stop sharing and back. Oh, I should share one last sentence in our notes here. The last sentence. Go to the notes. What does it say here? Problems of the outer or middle ears lead to conductive hearing loss. Circle the word, conductive. What does conductive mean? It's a physical, mechanical blockage. Earwax, middle ear infection. Electricity is conducted through wires. Electrical wires conduct electricity. Conduction just means to pass through. So any mechanical blockage, whether it's due to cerumen, whether it's due to a bug in the ear, or whether it's due to middle ear infection, anything that prevents sound from getting to where it's got to go. And where has it got to go? To the inner ear. It's all about the inner ear. The inner ear is the holy of holies. The inner ear is the center of the universe. The outer just helps bring sound in. The middle helps bring sound in. It's all about the inner ear. That's why we spend like 4 weeks on the inner ear. Okay? You can get done with the outer ear in 1 week. We're done now. Okay? Next week, we're going to look at the middle ear. And we'll spend 2 weeks on the middle ear, because the middle ear is a little bit more complicated. It has a real useful purpose, but we won't get into that now, okay? But the middle ear is also part of the conductive hearing mechanism. And what does that mean? It means this. Last time I'm sharing. Basically, it means this. If you can hear by, I'm going to go up to here, look at a picture. There you go. The person might have a hearing loss by headphones. Maybe you put headphones on and the person has a hearing loss. Take off the headphones, put a little box on the mastoid bone behind your ear, and you'll deliver the sound straight through bone conduction, and it'll get to the inner ear. You are bypassing the outer ear, and you're bypassing the middle ear. So a person with a conductive hearing loss will have a hearing loss by headphone. That's called air conduction, because the sound is coming out of the headphone and going through the air of your ear canal. They'll have a hearing loss this way. Take that off, put the bone thing on, and deliver the sound through bone conduction, and you hear like a baby. That means you have a conductive hearing loss. Your inner ear is fine, but you have a blockage with sound being delivered through a headphone. The blockage could be wax. The blockage could be an ear infection. Okay, so problems of the outer and middle ears lead to a blockage of sound getting through, and that results in a conductive hearing loss. Conductive hearing losses are only 5% of all hearing loss. 95% of hearing loss is damage to the inner ear. Conductive hearing losses are usually not fit with hearing aids. Conductive hearing losses can be fixed. You can remove the wax, or you can take antibiotics to get rid of the ear infection. You can get rid of a conductive loss, okay? You can't get rid of an inner ear hearing loss. That's where hearing aids come in. 95% of hearing loss is due to damage of the inner ears. And that is not a conductive hearing loss. That's called a sensory neural hearing loss. Sensory, S-E-N-S-O-R-I dash neural, N-E-U-R-A-L, sensory neural. Short form, S-N-H-L, sniffle. That's 95% of hearing loss. Okay, enough. It's now time to stop. And we are done this week. We've done a Zoom session in anatomy, and we've done one earlier in acoustics. I will stop recording now. Live long and prosper. We'll see you when we look at you.